have to say, I love the sailing metaphor because I myself am a sailor girl, and I have heard so many sailing metaphors, but that one was amazing. So, like Matt said, my name is Avalon Sueiro. I'm 19 years old, and I hate the question, where are you from? Yes, that boring question we use to fill the air with a new acquaintance before we've actually found a real topic of conversation. I hate it, but not for any good reasons, no. I just hate it because I don't have an answer. Awesome. So I was born in Los Angeles, but I lived in Boston until I was 10 years old. After that, my family left the US and we lived in Costa Rica, Ecuador, and France, each for a year. Next, we bought an RV and in it traveled to every country in Europe over the course of 2.5 years. After that, we lived in Japan for 5 months, and then we came back to France, and with no previous sailing experience, we bought a boat and started learning to sail as we traveled across the Mediterranean. A year and a half later, we ended up crossing the Atlantic Ocean, and then we hung out in the Southern Caribbean for a couple months before it was time for me to leave home, leave boat, and attend Carnegie Mellon University in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So, where am I from? Honestly, I have no idea, and if you make any breakthroughs on this issue, please come talk to me. I need something to tell my roommate's parents. So, this life may sound perfect on paper, but trust me, it was not without its challenges. Whether that was navigating airports alone, balancing time zones for school, or fixing a marine toilet. That last one, I do not recommend, no matter the circumstances. Trust me, just go overboard. Overall, I got pretty used to failure or difficulty in general. But failure, not so much. I, like so many people, got used to success. I got hooked on it. I knew my limits as a kid, and most of the time, I stayed within them. Most of the time. So, the story I'm about to tell you involves me last semester. And it also involves a copious amount of lack of sleep, caffeine, and some bad decisions. Should you choose to follow a similar route, it will not be easy. You have been warned. I started off my second semester of university unfulfilled with my engagement in the college community. I felt like I was doing well academically, but there was nothing tying me to the school. So I decided to change that. I ended up introducing 3 new projects into my life. They were an entrepreneurial competition, an executive position in a club that I was in, and a role in the school's musical. I sent off all the applications, they were all within a week, and I thought I'd get 1, maybe 2 of them if I was lucky. A week later, I opened up my inbox, and to my horror, I had been accepted to the competition, gotten the role in the musical, and been given the executive position as well. This was my face 20 minutes later. And that was on top of all of my other commitments. I had school, I had a job, I had my mental health to consider. I thought that if I tried to do all these things, I would fail. I would not be able to succeed. Somewhere, I would suffer. That would be maybe in my grades, definitely in my sleep. But for several reasons, it was too late to back out now, and so the semester began. Around the halfway point is where things went rough. I was up until 11 p.m. most nights with rehearsal, and then it was 3 or more hours of work on the entrepreneurial competition, work for the club, and actual schoolwork. Yeah, I still had that too. Even my parents, who think I can do anything, started to sound a bit more concerned on our calls. I almost didn't turn in the first round submission for my entrepreneurial competition after a negative bit of feedback from my assigned mentor. I cried more often than I can count, including once in rehearsal. That was not fun. I got my first B grade. Okay, this one is not as bad, but trust me, it mattered to me. Remember, I had grown up outside the US. I lived a very mobile lifestyle. These were all things that I'd seen and heard about, but hadn't actually participated in since I was 10 years old. I was completely out of my comfort zone, which happens to be a foreign country where I don't speak the language, by the way. But somehow, throughout all of this, I was more fulfilled than I had ever been at school. I was making amazing new friends. I was learning so much. I was growing in ways I didn't think was possible, all because I tried something that I thought I would fail at. And I was failing. I was failing and succeeding all at once, but I was happy about it. At this point in your life, you've probably been told not to fear failure before. It's the mantra of every caring person who wants to see you succeed in your life. But what these advisors don't understand is that often there's a difference between knowing you shouldn't fear failure and actually not fearing failure. We've been taught not to fear failure for practically our entire lives. It starts with school and then work and relationships when we grow older. It can be a useful, even motivating thing, but at a certain point in time, a fear of failure becomes a hindrance to our development rather than a help. My own fear of failure was enough to get me good grades in school and a good university acceptance, but that is as far as it would take me. To truly not fear failure, you must overcome it, like the heroes in the stories vanquishing their dragons. It's something you do only for yourself, and you do it by failing a lot. But that's when you realize failure isn't really even a bad thing. What is failure? It certainly isn't an absolute. Unless you fail at skydiving, you can always try again. To give an example, I spoke at the Hero Roundtable conference last year. I was very prepared, but about 3/4 of the way through my speech, I panicked and cursed on stage. These guys remember that. Although I have not rewatched the recording because it physically pains me to do so, I consider this a pretty big failure. But since then, I have been invited up on 7 more stages, and somehow I'm back here. Questionable decision, Matt, but I trust your judgment. Not bad for a failure. Unless you don't ever try at all, you can always go back and fix things and do better. By failing, you're simply learning and being pointed towards the place of most improvement. But the best part is when you don't even end up failing at all. By the end of my 2nd semester, I had pitched my entrepreneurial startup to a group of professors. I didn't win the competition, but I was a finalist. I had completed 8 weeks of rehearsals and 6 shows, singing and dancing in front of hundreds of people. And the club that I was in ended up voting me as their vice president for this year. And when final grades, thank you. When final grades finally came back, it turns out I still had my 4.0. That one baffles me to this day. I don't know how it happened, but somehow I did what I thought was impossible. Can we try something for a second? I know it's the end of the day. I know no one wants to stand up, but let's stand up, all right? Everyone plant your feet and your hips. Don't move from here down. What I want you to do is I want you to twist around with your arms out as far as you can and see how far you can go. Look at this hand, see how far you can go, and remember that spot. All right, now come back. That was your limit. That was as far as you could go right now. Now stretch out for a second. Get loose, move around. All right, try it again. Were you able to go further this time? This is my true point. You don't know your own limits. You only know what you've done in the past, but you have grown since then. And if you've been held back by a fear of failure, there are so many successes you don't even know you're capable of. The challenges you take on don't even have to be that hard. For you, musical theater might be the easiest thing in the world, a walk in the park, something you do every day of the week and still get 8 hours of sleep. Not me. It completely is foreign territory for me. But by exploring something new, you are learning just as much as you would by exploring something hard. You've heard from so many amazing speakers today. But my mission to you is next time you think, I genuinely can't do this, try it. Whether it's an assignment with a deadline fast approaching, a project you don't have the skills for, or a Hero Roundtable talk you decided to rewrite a week before the deadline. You may fail, but you will grow. And in doing so, you will realize that failure isn't even that bad. But if you succeed, well, you'll be more proud of yourself than you ever have been before. So, you've heard from CEOs and comedians today. They've told you their stories, their advice, their paths to follow, but it's up to you now. Time for you to go out into the world with what you've learned and make a difference in your life and the life of others. But no matter what, succeeding or failing, you are becoming your own hero. It's inevitable, so long as you try. So Michigan, go out and do the impossible, because I'm betting it's a lot more possible than you think it is. Thank you. My name is Avalon Sueiro, and I will see you on the flip side.